We're good then? We're good? Yeah. Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the July Committee of Adjustment meeting for the town of Tecumseh. We have quite a few items on the applications. We'll proceed with these. Laurie is not here. Or you'll be late. Any motion on those? Doug and Tony? No addition, deletion, correction? All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. The first application this evening is on 215 Les France Road. And are there some here? Come on up to the table and Donna will read the application.
Application for consent B0724, Suburban Construction and Management Limited, 215 Les Bronx Road. The applicant is in the process of developing the 0.388 hectare, 0.094 acres subject property with 4 6-unit dwellings. The purpose of the subject application is to divide the subject property such that 2 of the 6-unit dwellings will be established as condominiums and the other 2 6-unit dwellings will be rental units. The proposed severed lot outlined in red on the sketch has an area of 0.18 hectare, while the proposed retained lot outlined in green on the sketch has an area of 0.2 hectares. The consent is technical in nature as it facilitates the proposed condominium rental arrangement. There are no changes being made to the previously approved development, nor to the layout of the structures, parking areas, and amenity spaces. The development will continue to conform to the approved site plan control agreement. This application is being heard concurrently with application for minor variance A1924. The lands are designated residential in the official plan and zoned R3-22 in zoning bylaw 1746. Administration agency comments. The servicing strategy and details for this development have previously phase until a vegetated grass catch has been established to ensure that the migration of bare topsoil into the new storm system is mitigated. Public Works and Environmental Service recommends that the cross-access or easement agreements be formalized and registered on titles of both lands that will address usage and future maintenance of infrastructure shared between the severed and retained parcels. This includes, but is not necessarily limited to, underground storm sewers and stormwater management components, the retaining wall, driveway, and access routes, shared public spaces, etc. The cost of all servicing requirements will be at the expense of the applicant. Building services, no comments. Fire services, no comments received. IRCA indicated that the subject land is regulated and a permit application is required. No objection to the application. Essex Power, no comments received. Application for minor variance A1924, Suburban Construction and Management Limited, 215 Les Bronx Road. The purpose of the application is to obtain relief from the following subsections of zoning bylaw 1746. For the severed lot proposed via consent application BO 724, the southern lot, subsection 5.3A establishes that a minimum of one accessible parking space is required. There are no accessible parking spaces proposed on the southern lot. However, two are provided on the northern lot and will be available to both properties. Subsection 8.3.22C establishes a minimum lot area of 0.38 hectares. The proposed lot area is 1.8 hectares. Subsection 8.322E establishes a maximum lot coverage of 35%. The proposed lot coverage is 36.7%. For the retained lot proposed via consent application BO 724, the northern lot, subsection 5.251C establishes that accessory structures shall not be closer than 1.22 meters to any lot line. The proposed accessory structure, garbage enclosure, has 0 southerly lot line, and section 3.22C establishes a minimum lot area of 0.38 hectares. The proposed lot area is 0.2 hectares. The proposed variances depicted on the sketch are technical in nature, as they are required to facilitate the severance of the subject property through consent application BO 724, which is being heard concurrently. The purpose of the application is to enable 2 of the proposed 6-unit dwellings to be rental and the other 2 6-unit dwellings to be condominium ownership. There are no changes being made to the previously approved development and the site plan layout of structures, parking areas, and amenity space. The subject lands are designated residential in the official plan and zoned R322 in zoning bylaw 1746. Engineers' comments. They have no comments regarding the requested minor variance. Building Department. It has been noted that the mutual storm sewer will cross the proposed property line. Shared service crossing a property line will need to meet the Ontario Building Code requirements and reference 7.1.5.41 of Appendix A. Owners of the property and the municipality shall enter into an agreement registered against the property to which this applies. No comments from fire. IRCA notes that the subject property is regulated under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area. Their office has already issued IRCA permit 47-24 dated February 12, 2024 for this development. It is the responsibility of the applicant to notify their office if any changes are required to the approved site plan. No objection to the application and no comments received from Essex Power. Thank you.
Christian Lefebvre and Harry Frusios from Zelinka is here as well.
Afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm not getting any sound, so I'm just, are you waiting for me to speak? Because I can't hear anybody on that end anymore.
We're just here for any questions.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And I'm supposed to turn that on when I talk. Okay, is there anybody here for this application besides the proponents? Okay. So how am I gonna do this? I think I'm gonna ask administration to comment. I know that you had a rather lengthy report, but if you could comment on this.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Chair, thank you. This severance application along with the minor variance application are simply to allow for two types of tenure, condominium ownership on the northerly lot or the retained lot, and rental arrangement on the southerly lot or the severed lot. And it's highly technical. It doesn't change the principle of the use. It doesn't change the built form that's already been approved through a rezoning process and site plan control process that was approved by the council. The zoning and administration looked at the site plan and has approved that. Nothing changes in that respect. The proponent has hired Mr. Frosios to do a planning report as well. We've read the report and we agree with everything that was said in that report. The committee has our report, our staff report supporting it, and we're prepared to say that we support the severance application and that the variance meets the four tests established in the Planning Act.
So to be clear, the approval of this application doesn't change any of the build form on the properties, either one.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Could it come forward if you will?
My name is Gail Shane, and my family has a long history for being in Tecumseh, okay? My father was born here. My grandfather had a farm on Intersection Road, and I have lived here in Tecumseh for 30 years. I would have never guessed that we were going to have an apartment building right across the street from where we live. I don't think that's fair to kind of to put that up at this point, you know what I mean? And I was here with the other meetings, so it's not that I haven't. And I don't understand, because I knew that there was a variance that was coming up, okay? But you know that they kept on working on the property, almost like they didn't care. And it really made me angry, because the law is the law as far as I'm concerned. So that's my feelings, good or bad, it doesn't matter to me. But it keeps changing all the time. This is how many variances that this guy has had, quite a few at this point. So I'm thinking that you guys should probably keep a better eye on him, because he's got all kinds of stuff going on all the time. It's kind of shady. That's all I want to say. So anyways, thank you for listening to me. I'm pretty angry because we have always had a residential house or area. We have never had anything like an apartment building there. And I just feel like we are not allowed to use our own property to enjoy it. So anyways, thank you very much for listening.
Okay, just to be clear, that's why I asked administration if approving these applications tonight was going to change anything that's already been approved. And the answer was no. The build form that was approved at meetings a few weeks ago haven't changed at all. This thing just makes it possible for them to have two separate ownerships.
So my question is, I'm sorry, my question is, why are we having condos and rental properties there with the residential area?
Well, they're both residential, so
Wasn't it all supposed to be condos at first? That's what it was supposed to be, wasn't it? All condos?
the use of the building is not something for this committee. This committee only looks at the build form, what it's going to look like on the property, is to meet the sidelines and all that. The use of the property is decided by the official plan, which council approves. So that was approved.
But it creates lots of traffic.
This is the wrong place to talk about that. Okay. Anybody else have questions? Council or committee questions? Tom?
Yeah, just through your chair, maybe to Tad. So I understand this is just technical in nature. So this, is there anything that would differentiate what was previously approved for condominiums, rentals versus ownership? So I know that the building talks about storm sewer, so are there individual sanitary sewers for the owned properties now? Is there anything different?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, nothing has changed with respect to how the property is serviced, what is going to be built there. This simply is allowing for 12 of the 24 units to be rental and 12 of the units to be condominium. And that may not even happen. It just allows for that scenario to unfold. So nothing has changed. He would have had the opportunity to go through the condominium process without the severance, but in that case, he wouldn't have had half rental. But this is actually a good thing in the eyes of the official plan. The official plan asks for not only or encourages not only a variety of housing types, but tenures as well. So not everybody wants to own a condominium unit. Some people are in a situation where they'd rather rent. And so this it broadens the market for these types of units. And it's exactly the sort of thing that the municipality should be encouraging. Mr. Chair, I noted that the planner for the applicant has raised his hand through the Zoom. Okay, just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes,
Just to clarify a couple things, any construction we're doing now is in compliance with the building permit that's been issued and the variances. So nothing we're doing there is illegal. I just want to set that clear. And also perhaps just to shine some light as to why we're doing this. About 8 or 9 months ago, the Canadian government has waived HST on purpose-built rentals. 90% of the rentals within the development, 90% of the units within the development have to be rentals to receive the full HST rebate. So if I were to say do 12 condos and 12 apartment rentals in the same property, it wouldn't comply to receive the 13% rebate for rentals. So it needs to be on its own property in order to be purpose-built rentals. So for us, we're saving the HST, which allows us to bring units to the market at a lower price point. So that's the purpose of that. The whole purpose of the proposed severance is so that those units are on their own land and they can qualify for the full rental rebate.
okay, that really clarifies things a bit. The why is always a question, right? Any other questions from the committee? Welcome, Laurie. Have you got up? Do you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and pardon me, thank you for accepting my my delay due to the construction around town. So I apologize if any of these questions have been already posed. I'll just run through them really quickly. I do note that the staff report and notices have indicated that the minor variances are technical in nature to facilitate the consents, which are required to facilitate the sale and or rental. If the severances did not occur, my question is, would the development meet all the zoning requirements as is?
So yes, Mr. Chair, through you, it would. In fact, a building permit has been issued and they're starting to work on it. The corresponding site plan control agreement has been executed. So yeah, they're proceeding with building.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Furthermore, the question is posed to the applicant. Did you consider all rental?
Well, right now we're too far along for that, but the original plan was condos just because of the market. So when we had started this process, we weren't in a position to do that, but things have changed in the last 8 months and we're just going to make a decision based on the market. So based on the size of it, at the time, I didn't think 24 units would be appropriate for rentals. But you know, a good mix mitigates our risk. So that's kind of what we're looking to do. And you know, that's kind of how we feel the best for our I guess, development to be adverse our risk or to take low risk, right? So.
Anybody else? Sorry? Oh. Did he have his hand up? Did you want to say something? Oh, no,
Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm with Mr. Lefebvre, Mr. Chair, and thank you. And I think mostly everything needs to be said, it was said by Mr. Lefebvre, by Mr. Jeffrey. I'm just here to extend our support.
we have to get your audio turned up a little bit, just.
Oh, okay. Is
Okay.
that better? Is that better?
Dave is doing his best here.
Same
Huh?
same issue we had last
Oh,
time, because when I listened to the recording last time, it
Okay.
was clear.
do you have a volume control available to you?
I'm going to check, sir. It's working at its maximum right now, I believe.
Can you lean closer to the microphone?
Does that help?
Oh, it's wrong, coming out of the wrong speaker.
Is that better?
Oh. Dave's working on it. You have to bear with us.
No problem.
Might help a bit if you talked a little bit. You want to tell us a
Okay,
joke
is
or
that-
something?
Is that helpful? You hear me better now?
Not yet.
Better now? Better now?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly, sir. Yes.
Gotta find the right switch.
Better? You hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
There you are.
Can you hear me now? Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Harry Frucios. I'm the planner retained by Mr. Lefebvre for this application. Most of everything's already been said, so I really have nothing to add too much except for the fact that we thank staff for processing this application. We concur with the recommendations and in response to one of the committee members' questions, I think by doing what we're doing here with doing a mix of rental and condo, it really does address policies of the province and municipalities to provide a wider range of available accommodations for future tenants. So again, the very technical application. I thank Mr. Jeffrey for his presentation. We agree with his assessment, and hopefully committee will see fit to approve this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. In the planning report, there are recommended conditions. It shows 8, 9, 8 and severed lot and 9, yeah. 9 conditions. You're aware of those?
Yes, we are, sir, and we're in support of those conditions.
Okay. Committee, any more questions? Seeing none? Motion? Doug?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that this does meet before test, and they've already received the permit to construct the building. This is just to allow, like we said, rentals, I believe. So I would bring forward BO 724, application for consent. I think correct me if I'm wrong, I must include application for the minor variance A 1924.
With the recommended condition.
And we recommend that the 9 conditions, which they've already said they understood, be met.
Okay, supported by? Sorry,
Chris?
Chris, yeah. Supported by Chris. Any other question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The next application is for consent. Lot 7 on Tecumseh Road. 12053, I believe. Someone here for that? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ali Parla. I'm the lawyer for 246. Sorry.
Okay. I'm just gonna have her read the application. first,
sorry.
okay? Sorry about that.
Application for consent BO 824 2461415 Ontario Limited, 12049, 12053, and 12055 Tecumseh Road. The purpose of the application is to sever a vacant parcel of land having a frontage of 15.24 meters, a depth of 60 meters, and an area of 915 square meters, municipally known as 12055 Tecumseh Road, and outlined in red on the sketch. The proposed retained lot contains a commercial building and has a frontage of 56.4 meters, a depth of 57.1 meters, and an area of 3,218.8 square meters, and is municipally known as 12049 and 12053 Tecumseh Road, and it's outlined in green on the sketch. The parcels were once separate but inadvertently merged due to common ownership. The subject property is designated Main Street Mixed Use in the official plan and Zone C3 in zoning bylaw 1746. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested consent. Building Department, no services are to cross the newly established property line. Fire Department had no comments. Essex Region Conservation Authority, this site is not located within the regulated area under the jurisdiction of ERCA under the Conservation Authorities Act. As a result, a permit is not required. No objection to the application. Essex Power Line, no comments received.
Okay, so this is one of those lots that got rejoined by impact, by surprise.
No, it appears that the merger happened in 1991 when the predecessors in title purchased the property.
Okay. But it was a severed piece.
Up until
and
that,
then- And then got joined, okay.
yes.
Is there anybody else here for this application?
This is Mr. Nemi next to me, Tony Nemi, Anthony Nemi, who is the president of the applicant corporation 2461415.
Okay, welcome. Committee have questions? Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to confirm, as per the review, that no minor variances are being requested as a part of this severance. Question to administration.
Through Mr. Chair, that's correct. Both the retained and severed lot meet the minimum lot and area or lot frontage and area provisions of the bylaw, and there are no other areas of relief necessary to facilitate this severance.
Thank you. Furthermore, with that said, just to confirm with the applicant, is there any change in land use, anything that is beyond just the consent to sever that we are not seeing?
There was an agreement of purchase and sale in place which fell through. So we wanted to proceed with the application to have the severance in place so that if any any future buyer came along, that it would be there and ready to go. But it would be subject to whatever that buyer wants to do at that time. And of course, they would have to adhere to the zoning bylaws in full at that time.
Anybody else have questions? Paul?
Through Mr. Chair, it's directed to Chad. I'm just curious on the use of the land. I noticed it looks like it's an industrial building that. So it's commercial property now. Will it always be commercial? Is it gonna go back to residential? I just see houses nearby as well.
Through Mr. Chair, the designation for the property is Main Street mixed use, which essentially means full range of general commercial uses as well as residential, high density, medium density residential uses. So above the commercial uses. So that kind of built form could take place here, but it's currently commercial. It's being used commercially. And the subject property could also be used for full range of general commercial uses, with the exception of auto-related uses, because this is intended to be for a Main Street type of commercial environment.
Okay, Paul? Anybody else? Anybody else? A motion? There are, again, 7 recommended conditions. Tony?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we accept severance application BO 824. This property was severed at one point. And we are just going through the process of separating again. I believe it'd be a good opportunity for the property to be sold and be developed at one point with mixed uses, which would be beneficial to the town as well.
Ford? Tom? Any other question? Personal comment? All in favor? Carried. Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Next is Burke Street. Somebody here from Burke Street?
Yes,
Oh, they're online. I'm sorry.
my name is David Mady. I'm with the
Okay.
Rosati Group. Good evening.
We're not hearing you.
Oh, not again. I'm sorry.
Same problem, Dave, or? You can hear? You're very faint. You have to swallow that microphone.
I will speak as loud as I can. Is that better?
That's better. We can hear that.
Okay.
Application for minor variance A 20-24, Beisler Holdings, Inc., 5260 Burke Street. The purpose of the application is to request relief from the following subsections of zoning bylaw 85-18. Subsection 14.1.5, which establishes a maximum lot coverage of 40%, and subsection 14.1.9C, which establishes a minimum side yard width of 6 meters. As a result of the proposed construction of an addition to the existing industrial building, the applicant is requesting relief to permit a lot coverage of 41% and a southerly side yard width of 3 meters as depicted on the sketch. The property is designated business park in the official plan and zone M1 in zoning bylaw 85-18. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested minor variance. They continue to work with the owner and its consultants regarding site servicing and stormwater management as part of the site plan control process in relation to the development at this address. Revised plans and stormwater management report that capture the proposed amendments must be submitted to Public Works and Environmental Services for review and approval. Building Department. At the time of permit application, the designer shall comply with the maximum unprotected openings and exposed building face per the Ontario Building Code. Fire Department had no comments. ERCA, the above site is not located within the regulated area, therefore a permit is not required. They have no objection to the application. Essex Power Line has no comments. Thank you.
Okay, as is usual, I asked the proponent if they have anything they want the committee to hear that we haven't heard already in the application.
Nope, I'm good. Everything's been discussed and presented accordingly.
Okay. Is anybody here on this application? Seeing no one. Committee have any questions? Doug?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I always like to look to administration for some background, how this fits.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So this is a proposed addition to an industrial establishment. It has to go through site plan control before they can be issued a permit. We believe that it meets the four tests. It's it's taking up hard surfaced area that's currently there. It doesn't result in any parking deficiencies, so we don't anticipate there being any undue adverse impact on abutting properties. As our report indicates, we believe it meets and it addresses the four tests established in the Planning Act, and that's why we've recommended it for approval.
It's good, Doug?
Yep.
Anybody else have a question? So how about a motion then? Paul?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve application A 2024-5260 Birch Street for the proposed addition.
Thank you. Supported by? Chris? Supported by? Okay. Now you have a question? Go ahead.
I had my hand up earlier.
Okay.
The motion's on the table, so I can ask a question?
No, you can ask a question.
Thank you. So a question to the applicant. So why is it that you cannot meet the setback? So the curiosity here is that if the requirement, I mean, it's quite a large parcel, and if you can help to describe why is it that the addition needs to extend that far into the side yard and why you can't meet the regulation in the zoning bylaw?
Thank you for the question. We've met with the client a few times and to accommodate their growing business, we're just trying to maximize the building size. Met with the town admin and there was nothing that was presented that they seemed that they wouldn't approve. So anyways, answer your question. I'm sorry. We're trying to accommodate the tenant and maximize the amount of building area without affecting any adjacent properties or sites.
You're good? Okay. Any other? Oh, we have a motion on the floor. Question on the motion. Comment on the motion?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to add, I should have added this earlier. This property is fully serviced. It's with sanitary sewers now. So part of the reason for the larger side yard than you normally see in an industrial park for this area is because it was historically developed on septic systems. This is now serviced, and that the need for that setback is not as necessary anymore. So that's just another bit of information that the committee would appreciate.
Through you, Mr. Chair, is this something we'll see more of in the future with the septic system?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, what I think the committee will see in the future is the new zoning bylaw with a different standard, given that the entire area is going to be serviced with sanitary over time.
Yeah, I apologize, Laurie. You good? Okay. Any other question on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Have a nice evening.
So the next one is 592 Brayton. Mr. Goulet, welcome.
I'm here representing Mr. Goulet.
Oh, okay. Almost Mr. Goulet. Go ahead.
Application for minor variance A 1724, Michael Goulet, 592 Brighton Road. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 7.1.3E III of zoning bylaw 2065, which establishes a minimum interior side yard width of 3 meters. The applicant is requesting relief to allow an interior side yard width of 1.5 meters on the northerly side yard in order to facilitate a 38.3 square meter garage addition to the home in accordance with the sketch provided. The existing detached accessory garage will be demolished. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and R2 in zoning bylaw 2065. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested minor variance. The Building Department obtained an IRCA clearance prior to applying for a building permit. No comments received from the Fire Department. IRCA, the above noted lands are subject to our regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area of Pike Creek. The property owner will be required to obtain a permit from IRCA prior to any construction or site alteration or other activities affected by Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act, and all applicable hazard land requirements for development must be satisfied. No comments from Essex Power Lines. Thank you.
Okay, you're speaking for Mr. Goulet. Is there anything you'd like us to know beyond what the application says?
No, just here to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, is there anybody else here besides you and Mr. Goulet on this application? Seeing none. Committee have questions? Don?
Through your chair, no objections to this application at this time?
Administration has received no comments from the public with respect to this application.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else? Sorry, Lori, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A question, I don't know if it's going to be to administration or to the applicant pertaining to the existing dwelling and the current encroachment versus the proposed encroachment, and if there is a measurement of some sort that we can understand as the difference. I guess how much more will the new dwelling encroach, if you can quantify that? And then a follow-up question to that is, does height play a role in the sight line at all? Thank you.
And administration will get the second one. Right?
Certainly, the proposed expansion is 15 feet with the 5-foot side yard. Without reducing from 10 to 5, we'd only be able to do a 10-foot garage. So the request is for relief on that. The existing garage is need of repair, so it needs to be added on that.
Okay, you want to clarify?
I apologize. I was looking at my notes for the next application
Oh.
for Brighton Road, correct? I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so I'll go to my notes on that application. So if we can strike from the record the question earlier. The question is, in terms of meeting the existing zoning requirement. So I guess why aren't you able to meet the zoning requirements, which you started to speak to? Why does the addition need to extend that far into the side yard that you're not able to meet that regulation?
If it were designed to meet the setback of 10 feet, the garage would be only a 10-foot garage, which is possible, but not very practical on this site. I guess that's the reason why.
Yeah, just to follow up, so what you are, I think it says 15-foot garage that you're building.
That's correct. And if we were to maintain the 10-foot side yard, it would only be a 10-foot garage. So we're asking for relief to be able to do a 15-foot garage.
Okay. Any other question from the committee? Any other question from the committee? I don't want to miss any more questions. No more? Okay, a motion from the committee, Tom?
Make a motion to approve application A 17-24, 592 Brighton Road. I think it meets 4 tests. Nothing, there's really no impedance, so I think it fits. And there's no conditions, I don't believe. Is there?
No.
No conditions. Other than the garage to be demolished before the issuance of a building permit.
So the old garage got to go first. Okay,
Certainly.
supported by Tony? You have a question, Paul? Okay, all in favor? Carried, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uh, 12208 Riverside Drive. Welcome. Right.
Application for minor variance A 2124 Melissa Ryan 12208 Riverside Drive. The purpose of the application is to request relief from the following subsection 6.1.11, which establishes that the midpoint of the wall nearest to Lake St. Clair of any new dwelling or addition to any existing dwelling for lots on the north side of Riverside Drive shall not extend beyond the established building line. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling whereby the midpoint of the nearest wall to Lake St. Clair on the north side of Riverside Drive shall not extend beyond the established building line. The applicant is proposing to construct a new 2-story single-family dwelling whereby the midpoint of the nearest wall to Lake St. Clair extends 49.7 meters beyond the established building line as depicted in the sketch. The subject property currently contains 3 single-unit dwellings as permitted by the zoning. The existing dwelling, identified as 12208 Riverside Drive, is to be demolished and replaced with the proposed dwelling. The property is designated residential in the official plan and zoned R1-2 in zoning bylaw 1746. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested minor variance. Building Department, obtain an IRCA clearance prior to applying for a building permit. Fire Department has no comments. And IRCA indicates the above noted lands are subject to their regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area of Lake St. Clair. The property owner will be required to obtain a permit from IRCA prior to any construction or site alteration or other activities affected by Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act, and all applicable hazard lands requirements for development must be satisfied. No comments received from Essex Power Lines.
Thank you, Donna. You are?
Builder.
Oh, okay. Do we have your name for the record, please?
Randy Gray.
Um. This is a strange one. Chad, these sightline things always confuse me, so bear with me. There's a house there now. There's two houses. There's one. I can't really see it on this drawing. There's one on the front. Oh, there's one by the. Well, how can this house?
To make it easy, what's going on is the house in the middle is getting torn down and gonna build a new one right in its place.
Right,
And there's a
Which-
third house, like about 20 feet from the water.
at the water, yeah,
Yeah, all owned by the same person.
okay. Help me how
Sure.
this can't meet the sightline. The house at the river creates a pretty good sightline for this house.
There's no question that it's a good candidate for variance. But technically it doesn't meet the provision for it. It's not really called, we sort of loosely call it sightline provision, but it's actually the rear yard, minimum rear yard provision. And it doesn't meet that. They're tearing down a house and they're replacing it with a new building. So that new dwelling has to meet the provisions of the bylaw. And although it's being located roughly in the same location, it's somewhat different, and it doesn't meet that setback, which is, if you look up on the screen, and hopefully you can see this, it's from that point there to the west of that building to that point there to the east. So nothing can be built beyond that. Sorry, can you see my? Oh, yeah. Okay. So can you see my cursor moving up there, Mr. Chair? Okay. I can't. Okay, so that's the sight line. It's drawn from that point to the corner of the dwelling to the east. Okay. And the provision says that the midpoint of the nearest wall to the lake can't be beyond that sight line. And this, of course, is, so it has to get relief. It's a technical variance as far as we're concerned. And for that reason, we support it. We don't think it has any impact on that sightline that provision is trying to protect.
But there is another house that's actually farther outside that sightline. So
Yeah.
how can this, how can this be a cyclops thing?
It's
The other house is blocking.
it is. It's just view it as it's a minimum rear yard requirement that it has to meet.
That's why they have committees of adjustment for situations like this. Okay. Now that I've taken up everybody's time, any questions? Any questions? Laurie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So following that explanation to Mr. Jeffrey, then, is the variance that we're looking at that small, tiny corner? Because the notice and the staff report explained it a bit different. So can you maybe through your cursor show us what we're looking at in terms of what the actual variance is?
Yeah, certainly through you, Mr. Chair. It's the nearest wall is this, the northeast wall of the building, northeast corner. And it's the midpoint of that measurement is taken from. And that's simply to establish the extent of the relief necessary here. It's, it's being built in roughly the same location as the existing dwelling. As you can see underneath, this is the new dwelling is superimposed on this.
So, sorry, just to clarify, but what is, if you can circle the actual variance? I understand where the
Yeah.
measurement is located, but where's the variance?
So the midpoint of this wall is not supposed to exceed this diagonal line. Okay, so that variance is from that midpoint to the line.
All the way.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
now I understand, which is why I think in the notice, it seemed to be, in terms of quantity, quite large of a variance.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And now understanding that there was little, we'll say flexibility in the zoning bylaw to actually review what we were, what variance you were looking at in terms of the regulation. Because of the uniqueness of having multiple dwelling units on this property, I understand it now in that there's an existing dwelling, it's already essentially within the sight line. And now the variance that we're looking at looks like it's very large, but in fact is not as large in comparison to or rather the variance is not as large because there's already a dwelling there. Thank you.
Anybody else got a question? Oh, all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then furthermore, to a question to administration, does in the zoning bylaw height of a dwelling or structure, does that play into the definition of sightline?
No, through Mr. Chair, no, it doesn't. No.
Anybody else have a question? Or a clarification? Motion? Lori?
Okay, so in the case of application A 21-24 for 12208 Riverside Drive for minor variance, the application seems to be in compliance with, or rather maintains the intent of the OP and zoning bylaw. The variance, in my opinion, is minor in nature in that it does not appear to have adverse or major impacts to what is already there, and believe that the application should be approved. I also do not see any conditions and therefore just move to accept the application.
Thank you.
Pardon me? A little bit.
Application for minor variance A 22-24 Stephen Breyer, 285 Burdick Crescent. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 6.1.10B, which establishes a minimum exterior side yard width of 5 meters. The applicant is proposing to construct an 82.7 square meter garage addition, resulting in an exterior side yard width of 1.5 meters on the east side of the subject property where it abuts Keith Avenue, as depicted in the sketch. The subject property is designated residential in the official plan and zoned R1 in zoning bylaw 1746. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested minor variance. Building Department, obtain an IRCA clearance prior to applying for a building permit. Fire Department, no comments received. IRCA, the above noted lands are subject to our regulations under the Conservation Authorities Act. The parcel falls within the regulated area of Lake St. Clair. The property owner will require a permit from IRCA prior to any construction or site alteration or other affected activities under Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act. No objection to the application. No comments received from Essex Power. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, is there anything you'd like to tell us that we don't already know about?
Not at this time. No.
Okay. I think there's one question from Lori. You have a list for this one. Oh, okay.
Don't have a list for this one, but thanks, Mr. Chair. So through to the applicant. So seeing that you were here throughout the meeting, you may have already heard me ask this question, but curious as to why you aren't able to meet the setback and why you need to encroach that far into that regulation for interior side yard.
Yeah, so I'm looking to make a 4-car or 2 wide and 2 deep garage.
Can you turn your mic on?
Sorry.
Yeah. Turn the other one on. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, I'm looking to make a 4-car garage, 2 wide and 2 deep. I like cars. I'm going to collect them when I, get older. So I just want space to store them all, basically.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So furthermore, I guess the intent of that required side yard, understanding the staff report and the explanation of that regulation, is to ensure that dwellings are set back at an appropriate distance, so that in this case along Keith Drive, the rhythm of the dwellings along that street is not significantly disrupted. Understanding that the staff report has indicated that the varied orientation of the dwellings along this block of Keith Drive is as such that the objective of the interior side yard is not undermined by the proposed variance. I'd like to state for the record that I disagree, that most structures along Keith Drive are setback, and that this garage addition proposed to be 5 feet away from the right-of-way, in my opinion, will significantly disrupt the rhythm of the dwellings and the general front yards of dwellings along that street. Thank you.
Okay. So I need to ask a stupid question. Where is Keith Drive in terms of your drawing?
So it's on the left-handed side.
Okay.
Burdick is close to.
So this is a corner lot.
Yes, corner lot.
Okay. Sorry. Doug.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it may have been mentioned, but I might have missed it. What does this push the lot coverage up to on this site? Do we have a number?
Mr. Chair, through you, I don't know what the precise number, but it doesn't come close to exceeding the maximum lot coverage. And just in response to the question or the issue raised by the member, perhaps it could have been better worded in the report. I've put the air photo up to illustrate this. If you look at Burdick Street itself, and to the south, so around, just to the southeast of the subject property, you'll see that the dwellings are all oriented toward Burdick, and there's a consistent setback. And that's what I'm referring to as rhythm. So there's no, it's not doing this, it's consistently set back. And therefore the property at 305 and 12765, if they were to be closer than those other buildings to the lot line along Burdick, it would disrupt that. In this case, the blocks are not very deep or long. You say they're disrupted by Burdick and Coronado and I think it's Barry, but there is no definitive rhythm. It just varies all along there. So by putting this allowing for this variance and allowing this addition to be added, it'll have no discernible effect on that rhythm because the rhythm doesn't really exist. And there's also a fence and some trees planted along the south, we'll call it the southeast of the lot line as well. That sort of would hide that impact regardless. So that was the point of that position we took.
Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Jeffrey. So just to confirm, however, the variance that we're looking at is for exterior side yard. I thought along Keith.
Yes.
So the intent of the exterior side yard is to ensure that the dwellings are appropriately set back. So in that regard, if I look along Keith, 12765, 12781, or even on the, other side, 12735, that's where I guess my review and evaluation, I guess my conclusion is that there is no varied orientation that anything 5 feet away from the interior side yard. And if I'm incorrect, please correct me, but I thought it was along Keith that we're looking at.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it is along Keith, and I was just using Burdick as a sort of a comparison, where you've got these long blocks of dwellings that are set back the minimum. They're all built to the minimum front yard, and the reason we have an exterior side yard is because when you get to that corner lot, if they're all, let's say, just for argument's sake, 20 feet back, and that corner lot is allowed to build at 5 foot, which is sort of a typical interior side yard, then you're going to be looking into the side of that building. In this case, you don't have that, I called it a rhythm, but you don't have that pattern of homes that are fronting onto Keith. Some are fronting Keith, some are to the side of Keith, and there's large distance between them. So getting a little bit closer to that exterior side yard in this case isn't as significant. And we also have a rather large boulevard space too. So it's set back quite a distance. So that's the explanation I offer for that.
You can agree to disagree.
Just one more point of clarification. I feel a bit more confused. Is this particular property's front yard fronting along Burdick? Yes. And so this proposed extension into the exterior side yard will not encroach into right-of-way, but will encroach towards Keith and propose to be 5 feet from the right-of-way where 16 feet is required. Mr. Jeffrey is nodding for the public record. Okay. So the intent again is that rhythm of dwellings, and I hear you, and I agree with the statement along Burdick that the rhythm is there and that it would generally match the front yards along that street. But the side yards, I don't mind if we would like to open it up to the rest of the committee to hear a bit more about the rhythm of the side yards along, or front yards in the case of what you're explaining, along some properties along Keith. But if we use 285 across the street or 284 across the street, those are exterior side yards along Keith, and they're meeting the regulation. And so in my opinion, this encroachment, or I shouldn't say encroachment, but this proposed variance would disrupt that nature.
Okay. Any other question from committee? Tony?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess my question for administration, is there any provision in the bylaw that requires the exterior side yard to be greater or equal than the front yard of Keith? So they would still be able to encroach closer to the exterior side yard than what would be the required front yard for 12,781. If I've made myself clear.
Yeah, that is the point of the exterior side yard enables the house to go a little bit closer than the front yard. It doesn't hold, in this case, it's a 20-foot front yard versus a 15-foot exterior side yard, so that it's not a pronounced difference. The difference with this block is that there are no houses in between the subject property at 285 and 284 that are fronting. So you don't have 10 houses fronting on Keith forming that unified setback. So that rhythm I was talking about. In this case, you don't have that. There's two lots backing onto one another. They both have exterior side yards facing Keith. 305 across the road at Burdick and Keith, its front yard is actually onto Keith. The lot behind it is the exterior side yard. You know, that this is sort of, that's why I thought this was a bit unique compared to if you were to allow for 12765, that's not a good example, 305, for example, to go closer to Burdick than those houses that are all forming a, you know, a consistent setback along the west side of Burdick. You know, 305 would disrupt that if it was allowed to go 4 feet from the lot line. And that's the reason we have that. In this case, there's nothing in between those two lots that back onto one another to form that row of homes. That's simply. And then in terms of, Mr. Chair, if I could, in terms of access to the rear yard, there's no issue with respect to access or maintenance or anything of that nature as well with respect to this property. You can still get to the rear yard. And so we're really looking at sort of an aesthetic standard here.
Tony?
Second part of that question, is there gonna be any provision to that exterior side yard gonna be modified in the upcoming zoning bylaw? Is any of that being looked at for the future?
Through Mr. Chair, I don't believe so. We haven't talked about that as being an issue. We're pretty comfortable with, you know, this standard that has been set. You know,
Tom?
Through Chair, to administration, is it possible to show where 22 feet, which is the width of the proposed garage, extends to? I'm just looking at the power line that runs down there. And then is the proposed garage going to be 5 feet from the right of way?
it's Mr. Chair, through you, it's going to be 5 feet from the exterior side lot line, so the lot line abutting Keith. It's going to be 5 feet from that, and then there's an additional, I believe, 15 feet of boulevard space before you get to the road, the travel portion of Keith.
So in relation to the distance from the power line to the house, what does that measure?
Mr. Chair, I believe there might be some confusion with respect to the drawing. It looks like it might be a power line on the sketch. Is that what you were looking at?
No, I was at the site today. There's a power line
there's a power
along
line?
Keith,
Okay.
and it extends east-west.
Yeah, so it would be, yeah. I'm not entirely sure where the power line is within the boulevard on Keith.
But you can't measure it on the GIS?
No, we don't have the power line.
Oh.
No, sorry. And Mr. Chair, just Mr. DeCecco just pointed out that Essex Power would have commented if it had a concern with respect to that distance.
So just to the applicant, so is all this vegetation, it has to be removed?
So actually the first 5 trees closer to Burdick are all dead actually right now. So those are all will be removed, and then probably three more trees, but there are about 40 on my property that are going to stay. The other option would be to put the garage at the back of my property with the driveway facing Keith. And in that situation, all the trees would have to go, and I didn't want to do that.
Okay, that was my other question. So there's no intent to exit or enter this garage off of Keith?
No, because I wanted to keep the trees.
Okay, thank you.
Tony?
Through you, Mr. Chair, my question for the applicant, are the garage doors to be coming off of Keith or Burdick?
Burdick.
Thank you.
Lori?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a last statement, and thanks for the great discussion on the width of Keith and in the right of way, and seeing that it is quite a large width. Administration has referred to it as a boulevard. I think my traditional definition of a boulevard is we'll say a concrete kind of, piece in the middle of a road. But understanding that there is a large right of way Are you aware, Mr. Jeffrey or Mr. DeCecco, does the municipality have any intent on paving this entire width of the road? Is there intent to put sidewalks? Essentially what I'm asking is down the road, could there be the edge of pavement coming in closer to the existing right of way and thereby becoming, I guess, that close to the proposed garage?
Through you, Mr. Chair, and that, I'm glad you asked that question because this area of the town doesn't generate a lot of traffic, and this particular block of Keith won't generate, you won't see a lot of traffic along here at all. And there will be no plans that I'm aware of to expand it for any, to accommodate traffic flow, for example. There could be a sidewalk put in at some time in the future, but that would be part of some sort of retrofitting program the municipality might undertake. And who knows if that'll ever come. It may be as a result of petition or something, but there are no current plans to do that. But it could happen, and there is plenty of width within that space to accommodate it.
You good? Any other question? Okay, motion. Someplace, somebody. Okay,
In the case of application A22-24, after much deliberation and information sharing, I do believe that the application does meet the 4 tests of a minor variance, that the intent especially of the zoning bylaw is still maintained. Thank you for administration for putting in additional discussion surrounding my concerns. No conditions with the motion. Thank you.
supported by? Chris. I got Doug going. I gotta get you going. You gotta put your hand up more often. That's what it is. Okay. Lori and Chris. Any further discussion? Good. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What are we now? St. Thomas Street. We deferred you last time.
I've never done a building permit before, much less a variance application.
Yeah. Well, we'll teach you all we can.
Application for minor variance A16-24, Craig Guthrie, 12071 St. Thomas Street. The purpose of the application is to request relief from subsection 7.1.5, which establishes a maximum lot coverage of 30%. The applicant is proposing to construct a 54.8 square meter accessory structure resulting in total lot coverage of 32.5%. This matter was deferred from the June 24th, 2024 Committee of Adjustment meeting. The property is designated residential in the official plan and zoned R2 in zoning bylaw 1746. The following comments were received. Public Works and Engineering Services has no comments regarding the requested minor variance. Building Department, the owner contractor to obtain a building permit prior to the construction and once the variance is granted. No concerns with the application from the Fire Department. Essex Region Conservation Authority. The property is not within IRCA's regulated area. A permit is not required from IRCA for issues related to Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act. No objection to the application. Essex Power Line, no comments on the application.
Is there anything you would like us to know that wasn't in those readings?
No, so my plan was to build a golf simulator in my back. We are avid golfers in our house. And my original plan, which met the lot allocation, it just doesn't work in terms of size for distance, length and width. So that's why I applied for the variance.
Okay. Okay. You're here for this one? Okay. You give us your name and address, please? Yeah. Try again.
Uzen, 2140 Maitland Avenue,
Okay.
Windsor.
Okay,
My wife was here last hearing. She learned that the building was 12 feet high. And that's like another building sitting in our backyard. It's very close to our patio, like only 5 meters away. It will affect our privacy, view and light. And also the sewer system in Windsor is our concern. That's two main points we concerned.
okay. Mr. Guthrie, are there any fixtures going to be in it, like sinks or
No. No, no plumbing at all.
no plumbing? Okay. So not gonna affect the sewer. In terms of the building height. What is the regulation on building height? Because he's not asking for any kind of variance for that, so.
And maximum building height for an accessory structure is 15 feet. And this is well under that.
Measured to the midpoint of the roof or
Depending
something?
on the type of roof. So if it's a peaked roof, it's measured between the eaves and the peak, halfway. Yeah.
Okay,
And if I could respectfully respond to Curtis's,
give me a sec.
mhm.
Um. Yeah, okay. What?
They're concerned about privacy. Actually, it will enhance their privacy. As my yard will no longer be able to see into a large portion of their yard. So as it is right now, we can see right into his yard when that building is up. We'll have a lot less access into his yard. His house was also built probably 2 or 3 feet higher than mine. So if there's any drainage, it's always coming my way. And in terms of height, 12 feet, I don't think will block his view.
Are you planning on windows?
An east window and a south window, neither one facing his yard.
Okay. Committee. Tony.
Through your chair, Mr. Chair, my question for the applicant, is there any intention of using this as a commercial venture?
Absolutely not, strictly for me.
I kind of thought of that, and then I look at the drawing and say, what? It's not gonna be cars or anything in there because there's no way to get them.
My thought as well, but I was also going to, if it was, then there would be other issues with parking, possible noise issues or whatever. But that being said, that it's strictly for personal use.
Yeah. Doug? Oh, Laura? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a question to the applicant. Are you, just a refresher, you're planning on keeping the existing accessory structure like the shed? It's not being demolished, it's going to stay?
Yeah.
And then I guess just a point of clarification. So to the adjacent resident, which we chatted about at the last meeting, we're not looking at height that meets the regulation. We're not looking at setback that meets the regulation. We're only looking at additional lot coverage and understanding that you have concerns with potentially flooding or the sewers. I don't think you meant sanitary sewer, but probably the storm and the flooding that you may be concerned with. Any construction would require a lot grading plan prior to being issued that building permit. I would suspect as well as, during the building permit phase, that would all be addressed and a building permit would not be issued if there was undue impact to you in terms of flooding. For example, if any grading were to show that the grading is going to be down onto your property. But otherwise, we're here just to look at lot coverage. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear you say that his lot is graded higher than yours?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought you said.
It's a question to the applicant. They must have a privacy fence right now.
We do 6 feet.
Nothing else? Don?
Just for the record, so the pitch of the roof is 412, 6.
2 feet. So 12 feet at the peak. I think would you guys measure rise and run?
Right.
It's 2 feet. So the interior ceiling height is 10.
So there will be gutters
Yes,
on the
yes.
building. Drainage, as Lori pointed out,
Yes.
is required by the building department. Asphalt roof,
Yep.
shingles.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Somebody want to make a motion? Paul? Oh. I'm sorry.
I think my wife wanted to say something. Is that okay?
Well, yeah.
I just want to say, he said that the house is higher than their house, right? Because the house is like, built here and that there's like a, 这小坡怎么说?
Slope.
Yeah, so last time I said that there has a low light zone because her house is built here, but the last year I saw that he put more higher than the mine land now. You know what I mean? That this is the norm, right? Before we are the same, like the here.
Okay, we're not.
The same, but the last year he raised up.
We're not here to solve that problem. All we're looking at is that if we allow this minor variance, how will that be looked after if there's water in the backyard or whatever? And he'll have to make sure that it can get out. But he doesn't have to make sure that your water that gets into his backyard has to get out. You'll have to look after that, just so you know. All right. Do we have a motion? We have a motion started. I thought I saw Paul was saying no.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Due to just looking at Google Earth, you can see there's sheds on other properties. I'm sure they're not as big as this one, but they're not far from it. And due to Chad's report that this meets the 4 tests, in my opinion, it doesn't meet the 4 tests. I make a motion to move application A1624 to be approved in the minor variance on 12071 St. Thomas Street.
Motion, support. It's, I got a mental block, I can't tell you. Just a minute, oh, Chris, I got it. Took me a while. Is there Kamala Harris that wants to take over? Supported by Chris, no. Yeah, supported by Chris. Any other questions? All in favor? And quit laughing at me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Carried. So that you'll know it's carried. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've reached the end of the agenda. And I was close. I was saying 7 o'clock for today, but. No unfinished business. We just did it. New business? Anybody got new business? I'm looking at you.
Look at you.
I'm looking at you.
You're looking at me.
Looking at me?
New business? Here's looking at you. Okay, we reached the end. A motion to adjourn. Chris. It took me a little bit. And Doug. I got them both. Oh, we're adjourned. Thank you, David.